a Buenos Aires, y allá fue que nos enteramos de que existe esta red, que se estaba, yo no me acuerdo el año ahora. En todo caso, a partir de ahí, un grupo de acá, que a esta red y a los simposios bianuales que esta red realiza. Y en algún momento hicimos también, o sea, nos tocó en Bogotá, lo hicimos, y yo creo que lo que se está haciendo en este momento aquí en la Javeriana da para pensar que en algún momento se podría volver a hacer en Bogotá. El hecho es que el año pasado, en noviembre, se hizo este simposio. El profesor, bueno, nos encontramos, por ejemplo, en el terreno de los problemas del conocimiento, o si se quiere, en lenguaje más tradicional, más filosófico, epistemológicos, cosas así. Entonces entramos en conversaciones, nos caímos bien mutuamente, nuestro grupito, él, y además nos llamaba mucho la atención que fuera un sociólogo, politólogo, con cierta inspiración eliasiana de origen iraní. Es decir, el profesor se crió en Irán y, como van a escuchar en el marco de la exposición, viene del grupo de las tribus nómadas, Bakhtiari él mismo. Y sobre este grupo, digamos, esa es la base empírica del estudio que se va a presentar. Pues bien, y para nosotros fue de particular interés el hecho de que alguien, una persona de esta procedencia, se haya desarrollado en dirección a un científico que quiere deliberadamente hacer ciencia. Es decir, esto es un componente, esto es una posición en el espectro que hoy un poco gobierna el ámbito de las disciplinas sociales, de mucho interés, porque frecuentemente se piensa y se hace pensar que pensar desde el sur, desde las posiciones, digamos, sociales, de subalternos, etcétera, digamos, forzosamente se tiene que convertir uno en un crítico e incluso renegado, digamos, de toda pretensión científica en el campo de las disciplinas sociales. Pues aquí tenemos a un conferencista que representa una vertiente que no niega a posiciones, si quieren, sur, etcétera, digamos, la opción de un desarrollo científico. Y pues esto ha sido para nosotros un gran estímulo para buscar una cooperación sur-sur que, digamos, apueste al desarrollo del conocimiento científico y de las búsquedas cognitivas que todavía se pueden evaluar en términos de su ajuste a la realidad. Bien, esto como para decirles por qué llegó el profesor Alikhani a Bogotá. Además, pues estuvo muy abierto y desde el comienzo dijo, sí, yo iría. Sí, yo iría. Entonces, esta es la oportunidad. Bien, Behrouz Alikhani estudió, no me acuerdo ahora, en una universidad de un lugar más pequeño, ciencia política, luego se fue a estudiar, a continuar los estudios en ciencia política para culminarlos con un magíster en Teherán, y después de Teherán se fue a Alemania. Y en Alemania, por eso es que es una persona que habla persa, bueno, recibíamos de la región, y que habla muy bien alemán, y que además habla inglés porque a todos nos toca más o menos, pero no español. Entonces, en Alemania, en Hannover, donde trabajaba, digamos, una persona de perfil eliasiano fuerte, que ha estado en Bogotá, pero ya se murió, que es el profesor Gleichmann. Y en el entorno de este profesor surgió, por ejemplo, entre otras personas, entre alemanes, entre nacionales, una profesora turca, también eliasiana, que ha investigado procesos de su propia cultura, de su propio país, digamos también bajo inspiración eliasiana. Y en este entorno también trabaja en Hannover, digamos, otra figura de origen iraní, también con inspiración, digamos, eliasiana. No exclusivamente, es decir, la cosa no es como una secta, pero eso es una constelación que merece mucho interés. Bien, entonces, el profesor hizo allá, digamos, la preparación, aprendió el idioma, porque llegó sin el idioma, que hoy lo habla perfectamente bien, como a mí me consta, y escribe en alemán, en fin. Entonces, evacuados todos estos pasos de preparación para hacer realmente un doctorado, hizo el doctorado en sociología en Hannover, y después, bueno, estuvo también trabajando de profesor visitante, no me acuerdo en qué ciudad, en qué universidad, creo que de Gran Bretaña, de un país de habla inglesa en todo caso. Y bueno, actualmente está trabajando en lo que todavía en la academia alemana se conoce como el segundo doctorado, que ya lo habilita a uno plenamente, digamos, para poner el pie firme y con futuro en la academia alemana. Y está trabajando como profesor, está enseñando en la web. Lo pueden ver todos los temas, además de la bibliografía y el currículo amplio. Está trabajando pues en la Universidad de Muenster, también en Alemania, que presenta también una relación particular ciertamente con Elías, tal vez hoy no tanto como en cierto periodo, pero en Muenster también trabajaba el profesor Hermann Korte, que pueden conocerlo, por ejemplo, del libro que hace muchos años publicó la editorial Norma con algunos textos de Elías, que entonces se publicaban por primera vez en español, y ahí también hay algún articulito, si mal no recuerdo, de Hermann Korte, que es de la generación, digamos, de las personas de más edad que alcanzaron a conocer personalmente a Elías, y que él, como estudiante Korte, como estudiante ahora profesor emérito, es decir, emérito en el sentido de la academia alemana, ya está retirado, digamos, de los temas de docencia y todas esas cuestiones. Entonces, Korte, cuando fue estudiante o joven asistente, pues hizo de acompañante de lo que un poco han hecho los muchachos del semillero de Historia ahora con Alikhani. Esto lo hizo Korte en Muenster con Elías, cuando Elías todavía era poco conocido y en muy pocas universidades, digamos, se había despertado algún interés. Entonces, pues en esta universidad está trabajando actualmente el profesor. Le doy la palabra y la bienvenida, obviamente, y agradezco de nuevo mucho que Alikhani haya encontrado cómo llegar a Bogotá.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I hope everybody could understand my English. Yeah, is somebody who has problems, because otherwise we could ask somebody to translate simultaneously important points. There is no need, no? Okay, that's good. Well, I would like to talk about the context of this presentation, how I came to this idea to present such a paper, because I changed also the title. The title was before, To Which Extent is Norbert Elias Theory Eurocentric? And I changed it to the current title, but I think in the program the old title is still written, yeah? It's not. Okay, then the context was that in 2015 it was a conference in Austria, and the title of the conference was exactly the question, is Norbert Elias Eurocentric or not? And I went to this conference, but before I had the time to carry out such a study, because before this conference I was in Iran, and I was exactly in this area in which I did this investigation, which I will introduce later. What I noticed at this conference is actually, as people also said yesterday, that Elias is heavily misunderstood in some of his concepts, like also the concept of civilization. Because for me, until then, was like the concept of civilization was very analytical and very neutral concept. And I noticed that this concept could be also a kind of ideological concept, like a concept of battle, which like the clash of civilization. And in this ideological context, it's very difficult to talk about civilization. And then I tried to figure out what Elias, like himself, said about this problematic, because this debate on Eurocentrism was a long debate, and I noticed that he was aware of that, but still he used the concept civilization because he tried to like find other concepts, and he couldn't, according to himself, find a like adequate concept which could be replacing the concept of civilization. And he's like defining the concept of civilization very simple, that there is like developments based on the example of Europe. He took the example of Europe. There is developments based on which we could see the successive change in the like external constraints to the self-constraints. That is, he wanted to say that, and how this psychogenetic developments were actually taking place in Europe. What is he doing in this study for me was, until then, the important connection between the development of state, the development of society, and the development of personality. Which means for me was like the process of civilization. The book, especially the second chapter, was about taking an example to show the interconnectedness of three developments, using the concept of power always with other adjective, like very concrete reference to something, actually. And these power resources are at the same time the resources of self-esteem. No matter which power resources we have in a country, in a established outsider relationship, these power resources are defined as the resources or self-esteem, consciously and unconsciously. It shouldn't be necessarily consciously. And it's good to know, because the loss of these power resources means the loss of the resources of self-esteem. And that is the reason why the members of established group resist against losing power, as I said. Okay, that we could keep it in mind, like, and go on. Oh, what is he figuring out is that he's like introducing a concept. The logic of emotions is just one time in the book Established Outsiders is emphasized, actually. You could find it just one time. And he's defining like that one can observe again and again that members of groups which are in terms of power stronger than the other independent groups think of themselves in human terms as better than the others. I think he's calling it the logic of emotions because it is not a cognitive logic. It's emotional logic. That you translate power to human superiority, to better human quality. Okay, we have now all these concepts in our head, and start to look at the case study of Iran, because I said I think the rest of the things that this case study is empirical paradigm, you could develop it, build up a small-scale exemplary model of the figuration. One believes to be universal, is emphasizing the universality of the theory, a model ready to be tested, enlarged, and if necessary, revised by inquiries into related figurations on a larger scale. Which means possibly you could also revise the theory. But in order to claim that the theory is Eurocentric, you have to do these investigations actually. You have to go to other differently structured society and say this theory can't explain this society, and you could say, based on this empirical example, I could say that this theory is like Eurocentric. But if you don't do this example, you can't say that this theory is Eurocentric. And because he's saying it could be also revised. You could go to other differently structured society and revise the theory and say this theory is like bullshit. It's just explaining the European societies. Okay, and I will talk about Iran in this presentation. I am coming also from this area, which is exactly here. In this area is a nomadic group called Bakhtiaris, and they were nomadic, but their society is changing at the moment. Its urbanization processes are very fast in this area, because Iranian society was like a nomadic society 150 years ago, and now it's a very national and central society. And accordingly, these groups are changing, but still you could see some power relationships which are representing the old time. Like the reality is changing, but the mindset of the people, the habitus of the people is lagging behind the changed reality. That is, this area is full of nomads from they are all mountains until the south. And they are Bakhtiaris, they are also other nomads, they are also neighbors nomads. I guess there are similar relationships there as well, but I'm not sure. I did just my investigation based on this example. Okay. I studied the social structure of Bakhtiaris, and it's like we have in English or German language some terms like ethnicity, like clans, like tribes. But if you go to Bakhtiaris, you see other categories which you can translate into English or into German, like Langs, Il, Taifa, Tire. For example, you could say that is tribe, maybe here is clan, all these categories. It's much more differentiated and detailed than the concepts we have. I don't know, maybe in Spanish we have other concepts as well, but the concepts I know in English and in German. And that is the higher category, the lands. We have two lands, Bakhtiari have two lands, and then each of these lands have under category, then this category has other category. I copied a Persian graphic like that, just to have an understanding what is happening. Here is the Il, the bigger unity, and then it's divided in lands. And these lands, each of them is dividing in other categories. And this under categories is like in Khanevar. And this one is just here. Here, this small thing is also like other divisions. Which means if you meet somebody in this area, and he says, these guys, for example, if you ask, you could trace him back until here and here. It's very easy to say, not to say what is your name. The question is, who are you? Who are you means from which tribe are you coming? And they start to say like the bigger tribe and then start to come down. always from the top to the down. And accordingly, the social structure is very firm. They know each other. The first meeting, they know the power relationship, because these tribes have different power relationships. It's not like a caste system in India, that it's like not any social mobilities between tribes. There is mobility, but it's very limited mobility. And what I did in my study, I thought the most intimate relationship is the marriage relationship between people. And I asked the members of two like more established tribes, not at the top of the hierarchy, but rather at the upper top of the hierarchy. And I asked them, what could you imagine to marry a girl or to marry a guy from a members of tribe from at the bottom of the hierarchy? That was my question. Could you imagine that your daughter marry a guy from a tribe like the Maori and Arpenai tribe at the bottom of the hierarchy? That was my main question. And it was always like that as Elias said, actually you could see this power relationship translated into human value. The differences in power resources, which a tribe is more important because of the relationship of this tribe to the center of power at some time. I couldn't figure out how this hierarchy developed in the history, because it's like there is just oral history. We don't have any written books on this tribe. But there are some tribes who are higher, some tribes who are down, and accordingly of this high and down, you have better and less worse people. Like the human value is connotated with the position of the tribe. And you see Behrouz and Zarasvan at the top of the hierarchy. Two established tribes are better. They have better roots. They use these concepts. A better blood, a better nature, as well as a better ancestry. In contrast, Arpenais and Maoris, these two tribes at these outside the tribes, are inferior, without good origin, evil, and less respectable. I think it's the most vivid example to show how this power relationship is translated into human quality of the people. Down is just not down, it's not analytical, it's just also inferior. Like up is not just referring to the position that is high, it's superior. Okay, I will start now with analyzing. I did like 15 interviews, and I will here demonstrate 7 of them to show how these people justified their opinion. Why is it not good to marry a member of the tribe which is an outside the tribe? And I just interviewed the people from established tribes, because I noticed that I tried to interview also people from this outside the tribe, but because of the changing reality after the process of nationalization, these people are getting very insulted if you tell them what the members of established tribes thinking about you, which means this topic is very emotional, and you can't just go to the members of inferior tribes and tell them, why do you think they think that you are inferior? It's a taboo, still a taboo. And I can't do it because I am a member of a tribe. If I do it, it's also not good for my family. You know, it has some consequences. Because of that, I didn't do it. I just focused on the members of these 2 established tribes, thinking about the members of the 2 outside the tribe. And the first guy is Afshar. He studied law. He's a lawyer living in a city. His parents were also not nomads, but his grandparents were nomads. But you see still the continuation of this tribe relationship in his kind of argumentation. He said, I asked him, why could you imagine to marry a girl from Maori tribe? And he's answering, I will not marry a woman from the Maori tribe. They are down. Down is for him low, like bad. There are some red lines which are not easily identifiable. These lines are deeply inside myself. He is saying that he internalized these lines between the tribes. I am sure I will have huge problems with myself if I marry a Maori woman. I cannot do that. I will get children in my life later. I am convinced if I marry a Maori woman, I will lose both my social position and my face. I have my own tribal relationships. People would then surely think about me in a different way. You see the combination of not losing the face, like his relationship with other people, and the internalization of the judgment of the other people. If he does it, what does it mean for himself? He can't deal with it individually and as well as socially, because these red lines are not like red lines outside, but also red lines deeply inside himself. With his own language, you could analyze it like that. The second one is a lady like 61 years old. She did a nomadic life for like her first 15 years of age, and then moved to a city at the skirt of these nomadic groups. And she's saying also about the Maoris. I asked her, what do you think? Could you imagine that your son marry a girl from this tribe, or your girl marry a guy from the tribe, Maori tribe? And she was answering, Maori do not have any roots. They have no correct descent. They are beggars. They are unable and low. You see, again, the use of the term low. The Maori tribe was always a minor tribe. They have always followed commands. Like, that is power. They were like a follower. They were not commanders. Again, this power relationship is translated into human quality of the people of Maori tribe. One would lose face if there would be a marriage. This is not possible at all. If somebody did that, they would not be respectable anymore. I think this one is a good example to see also this interconnectedness between power relationship and the emotional experience of this power relationship as low or high. The third statement is from a lady, 68 years old. She did half of her life a nomadic life and then moved to the city again. And she's saying tribes like Arpenai, Maori, and Belivan, these three tribes at the bottom of the hierarchy, have just a bad reputation. They are also bad. Some of them perhaps have got rich nowadays, but they do not have proper roots. They simply could not change this reality. You know, the reality is changing, especially after the Islamic Revolution. The members of the lower tribes got higher positions, and the members of the tribe at the bottom of the hierarchy got poor. But still, she's saying maybe they are rich, but they have bad roots, which means this economical change in the life of the Arpenai tribe hasn't changed anything. But maybe in the future it will change something, but not at this given time. Another lady, like 75 years old, she's saying names of the father and grandfather is extremely important. You always have to ask whose son or daughter is someone. The son of a bad father will always remain the son of this bad father. In these tribes, you barely have people with good family, good origin, good ancestry. They have always been like that. Like, there is no chance of change. It's like something biological. Well, in my investigation, I noticed that while these people, like older people, work with concepts like roots, like blood, like family, like ancestry, The younger people are using like modern concepts like genes, like race, and that was what I noticed because of the translation of a lot of new concepts from European languages into Farsi, like the concept of race and genes. The young people who studied and who like are familiar with new concepts using these concepts to show why the members of the lower tribes are inferior. And this one is a very, it's a heavy statement of Farnash. He's 32 years old, an engineer, living actually in Tehran. And I asked him, could you imagine to marry a girl from these tribes? And his answer is, like you would say, he's really a racist. He's saying, like a watchdog, which should have a good race, human beings also have different races. Some races embody biological superiority, bravery, manhood, and self-sacrifice have always been important for Bakhtiaris. Some tribes possesses such characteristics, some simply do not. Like different classes which have different capacities, groups of human beings have different capacities as well. The Maori tribe, for example, has a lower capacity. I also would not, in no case, marry a woman from the Arpinai tribe, although there are good Arpinais, but they are in the minority. Arpinais do not have any masculine attributes. They are also physically weak. Their voice sounds like a female voice. That is his judgment why it is not good to have a relationship, intimate relationship with like members of tribes of other groups. I have two other statements, and this one is very similar to the statements of Farnash. He's also an engineer, talking about like some tribes could not create great men due to their weak genes and bad blood. Their man could not compete with the famous man from good tribes. You could see also in the history of tribes, you don't have any people from the tribes at the bottom of hierarchy who are famous. Just the people who are from the top of the hierarchy are famous people. And they are saying, they are taking it as self-evident, saying, okay, these tribes can produce in a good man because of their genes, their blood, their roots, their everything. And the last statement, and then I will conclude my presentation, is from a Masuda. She's 26 years old. In her statement, you see like the challenge. She's living in a city, like she has 3 children, 2 daughters. And I asked her a very personal question. How could you imagine that your daughter later marry a guy from Maori tribe? And you could see like this ambivalence. She's like in the city, she knows that is wrong talking like that, but at the same time she's afraid of the judgment of other people. And she's saying, I personally have no problems if my daughter would marry a man from the Arpinai tribe. Only the fact that people would judge us would worry me a lot. Then I would be ashamed. I, on my part, would not have any problems with such a marriage. The world has changed extremely and we do not live as nomads anymore. But people say that the Arpinais are sexually promiscuous and easygoing. People still are very sensitive towards this issue. One has to be very careful. Like she's seeing the changing reality, but she's seeing also the judgment of the people. And that is the challenge which she can't like overcome easily. These people couldn't like individually decide, okay, I will do it and I don't care about like the judgment of the other people, because this society is not individualized like urban society, modern society. It is, you are dependent on the judgment of the other people. Your face is very important. Your reputation is very important. And I think some of the concepts of Norbert Elias could explain the situation these people are in. Like if you say more externally constrained people, not like individualized people in some highly individualized society in Europe. But still there, as I figured out, you could see like establish outsider relationship in a very subtle way. Here is a very extreme example to say, yes, this model could be like picked and applied to other society which is differently structured and is not European, but still you could see the very close relationship, connection between the power and the self-esteem relevant translation or experiences of this power relationship. That is just not about the high and low, referring to the position, it's about the quality of human beings and how the people then decide and act and live based on this, this concept they have in their mind. Thank you very much for your attention.
Abrimos espacio para preguntas.
Pues yo tengo una, pero no sé si alguien se me puede...
A ver, sí.
Si no es muy largo, no necesito anotar una.
No, es muy concreta. Es si él ha establecido relaciones entre la teoría del poder en Elías y el concepto de biopolítica de Foucault. Si ha hecho alguna...
It's possible. If it's integrated